wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about NYITCOM and the development of NYIT. Now, I've heard pieces and parts of this story from both of you, but I would really like to hear about the time leading up to the decision and then what it was like to bring NYITCOM into being.
So if I recall, I think we started thinking about this in 1975. And I think it was called the New York State Osteopathic Society. Medical wasn't even in the original. And it was this group of people who were on the board of this and said, you know, we need a medical school in New York. And that's when we started putting things together. And I may be wrong on this, Murray, maybe you could correct me, but we had to get some money together. So we got some folks to help us. First of all, we have a building here called the Ryland Building. Well, Ken Ryland is, if I remember, he was Rockefeller's physician. And he got us started. Kissinger somehow got into play here and helped us. And you eventually have this school. We have the Rockefeller Building, we have the Ryland Building. We have these buildings that are named after folks, but why are they named after? Because they helped us put everything together. We have this great institution now that's graduated unbelievably great people. It was somebody that I wanted to mention that his name never came up, but a guy named Phil Volpe. Phil was he ended up being a major general, wasn't he?
Right.
He was a 2-star general. He was one of my students. I knew him very well. But he did remarkable things and, you know, helped bring the reputation of this place to high levels. And we had other very well-known folks that done very, very well. Many of the people that graduated from this place ended up on the New York State Board for Medicine. I happened to end up on that too, and I ended up being the chair of the board. I don't know how, but I guess they needed a spot, so they appointed me.
Did you miss a meeting, Dr. Diamond?
You went to a lot of meetings, whatever it was. But this whole thing has been, what you put together today, I think is remarkable. And it's going to go down the books. And I expect Murray to be around another 10, 15 years, but at least we got everything we had to get from Murray for right now. But she's got more things to do, of course.
By the way, I'm 98 years old.
Yeah. which is not bad, Murray. Not bad.
Great.
I'm a young guy. I'm only 92.
So, Dr. Goldstein, what is your memory of bringing NYITCOM into existence?
Okay. This is the beginning of 1975. I get a phone call from Ken Ryland. Ken is an internist at the Osteopathic Hospital in Manhattan, New York. He also happens to be, at that time, the physician of the Vice President of the United States, Nelson Rockefeller. He had been Rockefeller's physician when Rockefeller was governor of New York for 8 years. And then Rockefeller moved and became assistant director of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. And after 4 years, he became vice president. And Ken was his doctor all along. And Ken called me. I was at NIH doing my thing, and said, Murray, I'd like you to do me a favor. And I said, well, sure, Dr. Ryland, what? He said, I'd like you to join me for lunch with Vice President Rockefeller. Wow. I said, of course, of course. He said, well, meet me downtown Washington. There'll be a limousine there, and it'll take us to Mr. Rockefeller's home, which was on the outskirts of Washington. And we're going to have lunch with the vice president. Okay. So I got my clean shirt out and my bow tie, went downtown on Saturday, and there was Ken, and he didn't tell me why. And I didn't ask him why. I figured it would come along. And so we get into the limousine, we go out to Weston, Washington, D.C., to this estate that the vice president lives in. It was Saturday, and get out, and Mr. Rockefeller comes out the front door. Well, I had kind of dressed up, I figured. And here he is in a pair of slacks and a sports shirt, absolutely relaxed. Invited me in, greeted me. It's the first time I'd ever met the man. He said, Murray, I want you to do me a favor. Yes, sir. What is that? He said, I'd like you to retire from the public health service and spend your time organizing and establishing an osteopathic college in New York State. And I just sat there staring at it. It was the wildest thought I couldn't imagine. And he said, well, we in New York State don't have an osteopathic college, and the number of osteopathic physicians is too small. And the only way we'll increase the number is train them ourselves, because they're not going to come from other states. And so the time has come for us to have our own medical school in New York. And we need somebody to organize it. And I'm asking you, would you take that responsibility? Well, needless to say, I was a little shocked, thought for a moment, and said, Mr. Vice President, there's a problem. I'm a research person. I don't know about organizations for medical care and for teaching. I have never taught. I'm a scientist, and on top of it now a bureaucrat. And so I don't know that I'm prepared. And Mr. Rockefeller said, Murray, we have reviewed, he said, we have reviewed your credentials, and we think you can do it. And would you agree to do it? And he stared at me. And I said, you realize I will have to retire from the public health service? And he said, yes, absolutely. And I said, okay. And so I retired from the public health service and arranged to sit and meet with Ken Ryland to learn what the hell this is all about. We didn't have any home, no physical space. most of the DOs were in private practice. We didn't have scholars. We were starting with nothing. And then I realized that might be good because we can shape it any way we want to. We're not tied down by a tradition in the state. It's our state and we're starting from scratch. And so maybe it's an interesting job. And so I retired from the public health service. We hadn't decided where the school would be. We knew nothing about faculty. First thing I decided I needed somebody who knew what the hell was going on. And so I invited a chap, a DO, to become the assistant dean and begin to develop two things, a curriculum and a 98 years old, a curriculum and a faculty. Mm-hmm. And focus on the first 2 years. Get started in the first 2 years. We didn't have to worry about clinical things, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. And so I was very fortunate in that I got Dr. Fleischer, who agreed to become the deputy dean. And Phil picked up what I would call the educational details and began to develop what a curriculum would look like, what people might become faculty. What hadn't been settled, of course, is where would the school be? Mm-hmm. Our colleagues, quite properly, quite honestly, in Upper New York State, Rochester, Buffalo, wanted to have the Osteopathic New York State College in Upper New York, training physicians for that area. Perfectly reasonable idea. And then something just happened. And I got a phone call from the president of NYIT. Mm-hmm. And he made a strange offer. He said, I know you're developing an osteopathic medical school and you need a site. You need a building, you need land. I will offer you a site. You would not be part of New York Institute of Technology. You'll be a separate organization with your own charter. It's just that we will loan you some land. And we've got an old building that we can remodel. And you could start thinking about a freshman class having a place to do this. And he said, you will be completely independent. He said, the only thing I would suggest is that a liaison member from your college would be a liaison to our board of directors. And a member of our college will be liaison to your board of directors so that we can talk to each other. But you will not be part of our organization. And I jumped at it. And so that's how we came here. My wife told me that she did not want to move to New York. She said, Murray, darling, if you go to New York, yes, I will go with you, of course. but I want you to know I don't want to go. We had our 2 daughters living there nearby, married. And so I accepted the position in the early winter of 1975, was able to recruit some wonderful executives to accept the responsibility of designing the college. And towards the end of 1975, it was around Thanksgiving time, I resigned. And my assistant dean became president. And he did a wonderful job. And so I had an 8-month tour of duty. By the way, I went back to the Public Health Service and asked them if I could be reappointed, and they reappointed me. Once I got out of the way, the school developed and is what you have today. It is what you have today.
That's a great story, but certainly, if it were not for your willingness to say yes and to meet with Dr. Ryland and have hamburgers with the vice president, that this may not have happened. And so that willingness to say yes and move forward has led us to today, which is really an amazing thing.
We are in an exciting moment in the history of osteopathic medicine in this country. Who will we be 10 years from now? 20% of our physicians are DOs. The only reason you know they're a DO is on their uniform. It says DO. They're part of the gang. I don't remember it, but it may be just because I don't know. Those DOs giving osteopathic therapy. Anybody. They're neurologists. One is a neurosurgeon. Who will we be 10 years from now? Who should we be 10 years from now? It's an exciting moment in our history. I'm sorry, I'm 98. I don't think I'll see what happens 10 years from now. But it's very exciting, very exciting. And I'm delighted that the people in charge are in charge.
Well, thank you. I too think it's exciting, and I'm very hopeful that you'll be along for the ride for a little bit longer. Dr. Murray or Dr. Goldstein sits on our advisory board, and he's always challenging. Thank you both so much, and it's been truly an honor and privilege to talk with you today. I'm confident our listeners benefited from the history, the memories, insights, and experiences you shared today. We're in awe of your amazing accomplishments, your unrelenting pursuit to advance the acceptance of osteopathic medicine as an effective and respected practice of medicine. And we do stand on your shoulders, and I am grateful for that. You've made an extremely significant positive impact on our world, and your actions will make us all much better. It's an honor and a privilege to spend time with you, to know you, and I look forward to our next conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.